blackboard. Okay, so I want to talk about tahara, and I want to talk about exactly what is tahara, what's involved, and I also want to talk about a basic concept, which is tahor and tameh. Some of you, if you were listening very carefully to that audio at the very beginning, one of the things that they said was that in the middle of the process, once the water has been poured, everyone says tahorhu, tahorahi. You are tahor, you are tahora. Right? That's in the middle of the process. I want to explore with you what that means. And it's going to make a lot more sense if we take a look at these four variables first. It's also on the sheet that I prepared for you. In terms of what a Chevra does and what the we've generally been talking about it using these four variables. One is kihila, one is community. That is, if one thinks about a Chevra Kadisha, one does not begin to think about it as an independent program, like people can go do something for social action. I think I told you this story last time, but I was once invited to a major conference from one of the synagogue, 2,000, 3,000, whatever number it was at the time. It varied from year to year. And the person who invited me said to me, okay, you can do this, you can do a session about Chevra Kadisha, and we'll put you in Chevra Kadisha, social action, mazon, all these kind of whole list of different programs of a synagogue. And I said, if that's where you want me to be, I'm not coming. I said, that's not what a Chevra Kadisha is. A Chevra Kadisha is the nature of a synagogue. It's the community. It's the actions of everyone in that community about how everyone in a community gets to deal with death and dying. One of the reasons I gave you that book about Kvod Hamet, the one from last week, was that we're all on the same page about some of the different actions that happen, some of the different things that people do, mitzvot, that people do when someone dies. Now, it varies from congregation to congregation, and there are different customs, but essentially, that's pretty much an accepted view. When it comes to the congregation, what I kept telling people when they said, and they talked about, you may have heard years ago, people had talked about synagogue transformation. We want to transform the synagogue. No one had quite a good idea about what they wanted to transform it to. They wanted to transform it. And I kept saying to them, one of the ways of doing synagogue transformation, and if you really want to look at it, is establish a Chevra Kadisha in your congregation. Because everyone in that group, everyone in the synagogue who gets involved with death, whether it's Shmirah, whether it's Nechama, whatever it is, even including visiting the sick, that will transform the way people talk to each other. I have always said that ever since I touched a dead body, I can't treat somebody alive in the same way. I'm just different. I have a different appreciation of somebody who's living because I deal with dying as part of life. And so Kehillah, the community, is involved in this. One needs a community, one needs a team of people to do a tahara. One needs a community of people to sit shmirah, to sit with the body. One needs a community of people to do nechama and to do everything else that we've been talking about. So that's kehila. Second, kavanah. So in the area of kavanah, people began to ask a certain kind of question when we began to talk about this. And that was, do you really have to mean it? Here I am, I have this dead person in front of me. I'm about to do something with them that is to transform who they are. Do I believe that? Do I have to understand that that body on the table is not a body, but it's a neshama? There's a soul there. If I walk in the room and I see that body on the table, do I have to believe that there's really a neshama there in order for me to do a tahara? Fair question. Lots of theological questions that we're going to see even deeper when we talk about the liturgy and what's involved in the liturgy. But the basic question is, do I have to believe all this stuff in order for me to do a tahara? One person who began to think about this wrote an essay for me once. His name is Peter Strauss. He's a friend from Netivot. I understand that. That was for your benefit, Rabbi. He wrote the following. He said, this is an essay called What Tahara is Really About, which I want you to read for next time, not this time. But he writes the following. Somebody might well ask, what if I don't believe this stuff? What if I'm really not sure how relevant any of this religious stuff is to me or my core beliefs? I suggest, he says, that you act as if it were all true. Another way of looking at it, at what we're doing, is as drama, as theater. We are the actors. The mate or the meta is an important but non-speaking part, hopefully. Otherwise we're really in trouble. And the neshama and God are the audience. There are three entities in the Tahara room: the team, the neshama, and God. The conversations all take place between those three, and just as when we watch a play or a movie, we agree to believe that the actors are really the characters they represent, just as we agree to suspend disbelief so as to enter fully the action of the drama, so we need to suspend disbelief so as to enter fully into the drama that is Tahara. So think of it as drama. Think of it as acting as if. And one of the things that really is difficult is when you get in that Tahara room and you have to become and do things that may be different than your own core of beliefs in order for it to do a traditional Tahara. That's kavanah. Do I need to mean it? Which goes along with tefillah, with the prayer, the words. We're going to be examining much more in detail what the words are that are said during a tahara, including Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, including one of my favorite prophets, Zechariah, because he is a major player in this whole ritual. And the ritual actually is a play. It's got 5 acts. And we're going to explore what those 5 acts are. But as I said before, one of the most important reasons for the prayers is because it is consciousness arising. It helps you it helps you think about what you're doing in a way that is different than simply number 4. Number 4 are the actions. Tefillah, in my humble opinion, is way more, is way more important than the actions themselves. They're complementary in a way. I want to disabuse everyone of the fact that when when you think about tahara, it's the mechanics that comes to mind. How do you do X? How do you do Y? How do you put a sleeve on somebody who's dead? How do you put earth on? How do you lift a person to put them in the casket? How do you tie the knots? Tahara is not about knot tying, pardon the pun. It's not about how to tie knots. And the truth is, take a look at those 4. I've listed them in a certain order because I really believe that the lowest on that rung is how to do it. We're going to teach you next time around how to do it. But that's not the issue with tahara. The main thing with tahara is what you're doing with that body. What's going on in that room. Those of you who may have done a tahara already know that when you enter a room, there's an neshama. There's a palpable feeling of something there. I'll call it a neshama, you can call it whatever you'd like. But there's a palpable feeling of something there. Not only that, if there weren't, then there's no reason for you to ask forgiveness. It's either there's a neshama there, you ask for forgiveness. If there's no neshama there, why ask for forgiveness? Okay. Questions, comments about those 4? I was going to do another exercise before with you, but I decided not to, which was figure out what order you'd place those in, what hierarchy. Deb?
It seems to boil down to respect. Respect for your community, respect for God, respect for the process, and certainly respect for the person that you're dealing with.
It does. It boils down to respect, but it boils down to one other, I think, a little bit more than that. Trying to find a pocket. Hold on. There we go. I am totally not used to this stuff. And usually I can work without a mic, but not tonight. No, don't bother. Don't even think of it. Okay. What I was going to do is have you do a hierarchy and think about it. But I want you to consider, as between this session and the next, these kind of variables. Yes.
I was surprised that when you were talking about Kavanah, that the concern was, do I really believe in this? Because when I first read that in the list, I was thinking intent, meaning like the intent of doing this for this person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not like I have to believe what I'm saying, or I have to, my background has to align with this ritual in some way, but my intent is to show up
Yes.
for this person and steward them into whatever comes next.
Good, thank you. Thanks for that corrective.
No,
You're right.
No, I'm just asking.
No.
Because I think it's valid. I mean, it's valid too, because you don't want to say that, because the worrying, if you're saying empty words, is also a part of respect.
Yeah.
As
And whether you want
I
to,
understand that, but the fact that as someone just even showing up, I feel like the intent, that's covenant.
that the intent is to show up, right, and to do it.
Yeah.
That's right, and to have that mindset.
There are Chevra Kadisha groups that have said this liturgy is too theologically alien to us. We're going to say it differently.
Right.
That may or may not be the choice that you folks here do. But that's, you know, a legitimate way to respond to dissonance of the ideas. But yes, it's showing up, and it's how your framework is. And you use the phrase usher them along, and that's already a big theological assumption.
Right.
That may be, you may be comfortable with that, you may not. And some people are and some are not. And so how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
I was really struck by you talking about it's a drama where you have a willing suspension of disbelief. So I'm going to tell you about a deep experience of mine, and now I realize one of the reasons I'm attracted to Kadisha is to explain that. So I'm a massage therapist, and I generally don't view myself as being energy oriented. Some people who are body workers talk about energy, they feel the energies, and I don't feel that much. But I took a number of classes on craniosacral therapy, which are very, very subtle. And I remember one of the great teachers I had said, if you can't feel a craniosacral pulse, pretend you can. No, and this is very serious. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And every time I do that, I feel like I'm feeling something.
Right.
And I think that one of the reasons that I'm attracted to the Chevra Kadisha is, I think, because I intuited, I think, without almost subconsciously, that will help me in my spiritual path to have more, in particular, especially for tefillah, which I don't have a deep connection with.
Okay, good. All right. I also, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think about with Kavanah or intent, you mentioned that part of this process is to help the deceased transform or transition the afterlife.
Good.
And whether we go into this with the intent and the belief, I suspect that to a certain extent, we too will be transformed by the experience.
Yes. Good. So therefore, last time, the first time that we met, Ilana brought up this this piece from Tanchuma about the greatest importance of this mitzvah is that it can never be repaid. Right? I'm not sure that it's completely accurate. And the reason is because some of the things that you've now been saying. That is, there is a feeling that one has when one does a tahara that it's had an effect on you. It can't not have an effect on you when you do it. Because the purpose of a tahara is to transform a mate or metah from one level of existence to another. That's the journey of tahara. There are two concepts that I want to share, that I want to work on now. One is called tameh. Hello. One is called tameh and one is called tahor. Tameh means? Good. I love the confusion. And what's tahor? Good. Let's, for the moment, agree on one thing. There are certain words in languages that can't be translated. One of them is tahor and tameh. So let's just use those words for the moment. Okay? Good. How many of you here think that you are tahor?
What kind of? Well, there's a part of us. I subscribe, that there's a part of each of us that is pure.
Good. So it's a part. It's your neshama.
So I want to say I'm a yes and no.
Thanks, Bruce. Good. Okay, that's fine. Excuse me, fine. How many of you think you're tameh? How many of you aren't thinking? Wait, hello? Somebody? How many, what?
How many have no clue?
How many of you have no clue? That's the other one. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at what tahor and tameh mean biblically, and then we'll move all the way really quickly across the centuries to today. Fair enough? Take a look at the blue sheet. The Hebrew noun tum'ah, tameh, impurity, describes a state of ritual impurity. A person or object which contains tum'ah is said to be tameh, and thereby unsuited for certain holy activities, Kadisha, some kind of activities in Hebrew, until undergoing predefined purification actions that usually include the elapse of a specific time period. Okay? This is trying to boil down some concepts that I'm not sure anybody really has great that I'm not sure that anybody has really great definitions about. But what I've been able to do is to figure out the following. In the Bible, how do you become tameh, ritually impure? Well, there are three ways. You become ritually impure. By the way, this is not a medical condition. Let's get one thing really clear. It's got nothing to do with medical, right? I mean, one of the ways that you get tahor at the end is by, you've all read the book of Vayikra, I hope. I haven't paid attention to it either. So the book of Vayikra is very simple. You get tahor by the Kohen Gadol going out of the camp to where this tameh person or tmeah person is, and checking to see that they're okay. Not medically, ritually okay. All right? So one becomes tameh by three ways in the Bible. One is by death, by contact with a dead body, tum'at mate, which in addition to the body itself includes significant parts of the body. Soil in which the body decomposed and anything else possible. Or by being present in a building or a roofed structure containing a dead body, tumat ohel. In other words, there's a body in here, someone who's dead, and if I walk into this room, I then acquire this notion of tum'ah. I become tameh, which explains the actions of some traditional kohanim, a person who's a priest, who would not walk into a building in which there's a dead body.
Or a cemetery.
Or a cemetery, that's right. Right? That's two. Three, by coming in contact with certain dead animals, including most insects and lizards, that was all considered to be having to do with death. The worst or the highest level of tum'ah, the highest level of tum'ah was touching a dead body. Avi avot hatum'ah. It was the highest level of that one could contract tum'ah. So that's death. Sex was the second one, by contact with certain bodily fluids, like a nidah, someone who is a menstruant, or a zav, which is a nocturnal emission. Yeah?
When you're in contact with these body fluids, do you wear gloves?
I'm sorry?
When the person is in contact with possible body fluids, does the person wear gloves?
Do we wear gloves? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll see next time wearing gloves. Not only that, gowns also. And some Chevras use masks as well. Some Chevras also wear booties, shoes, or boots, actually. The Chevra Kadisha in Prague, if you walk into their Tahara room, you walk in and on the right side, there are 6 pair of white boots. On the left hand are 6 pair of black boots. It was a stunning way to just watch what was going on.
And what's the significance of the 2 colors?
Men and women. No, that was. What? No comment. I have no idea. Okay. So sex either by nida or by zav, or by giving birth to a child, and 7 days for a boy, followed by 33 days of tahara, and for the girl, he needed 66 days. We won't go into why. The third is, or by contact with a primary source of tum'ah, or an object that has been in contact with a primary source. In other words, there's this kind of contagion that one gets by touching, or by being in the same building, atmosphere, ohel. And the third is by disease, tzara'at. Whatever that means, and doesn't mean leprosy, some kind of a skin disorder, Hansen's disease, for example. That's another way of contracting, of biblically, and I want to repeat this, of biblically contracting tum'ah. Okay? Bottom line, tahor and tameh should not be seen as implying any moral or ethical status, nor do they imply anything about physical cleanliness. They are related specifically and only to the ritual readiness or fitness. Okay? Turn the page over.
Basically means there were certain things you could not do at the time of the temple if you were tameh.
Very simple. All right, now let's, yeah.
So, excuse me, does that mean that if you become part of the Chevra Kadisha that does do tahara, that you have to do a mikveh each time?
Yeah, no. No, but I want to hold that question, okay? It's a great question. Does everybody understand the question?
Yep.
If you're touching a dead body, don't you have to? The answer is no. The question is why not? It's for another time. I promise. We've been, I want you to know, we've been talking about this now for years. And I'm not sure we've come up with a good answer for it yet. So it's an interesting issue. And
It sounds like it's because.
Yeah, but I don't like because. For me, because doesn't work.
I will add, though, that in many Chevra Kadisha groups, at the end of a tahara, people do something.
Right.
They have a closing ritual, a cleansing process. Some people go home and take a shower. They take their clothes off when they get home and put them immediately in the washing machine. I mean, people do these kinds of things because there's a feeling of, call it tumah if you like, but there's a feeling of you need to move away from that process back to your regular life.
Okay. Turn the page over. In Epstein's Talmud translation, this is the easiest one in English to put together in one paragraph. There is a masechet, there's a whole order, actually, of in the Talmud called taharot, cleanlinesses, and it's the last of the 6 orders in the Talmud, in the Mishnah and the Talmud, and is divided in all kinds of ways that we don't need to get involved in. But I want you to look down, about the third line down. These laws constitute a code of Levitical purity and are of much more specific application than those relating to clean and unclean food, animal, birds, which are discussed and elaborated in Tractate Chulin, a different one, included in the whereas these latter laws are absolute and valid for all times and all places, that is, all the stuff about Chulin, most of those treated in this order, taharot, are connected inseparably with the sanctuary and have no validity apart from it. Have no validity, that is, no temple, no tahara, no tameh, no tahor. Without that temple, and without a red heifer, and without a Kohen Gadol, and all kinds of other, you can't have the system of ritual impurity. Let's keep reading.
Impurity or purity?
Both.
It's a system.
It's a system. It's a system that moves between the two. Once the temple's gone, so goes the system, because you can't enforce it. There's no way of enacting it.
Maybe that's why we
It has
don't
no
have to have
implications.
mikvah.
Well, let's hold this question. We'll get to that. Even in temple times, many of them did not affect the common man unless he was to visit the sanctuary precincts or come in contact with consecrated food. He need have paid little regard to them. Nor did these laws of uncleanliness, tum'ah, ever apply outside Palestine. And with the destruction of the temple, they have as a whole fallen into obsolescence even in the Holy Land itself. What that paragraph is trying to say is that there's a system called tahor and tameh. It's an enclosed system. It only worked, past tense, it only worked when there was a temple, which means it only worked when there was a Kohen Gadol, which means it only worked when there were sacrifices. It only worked when there was a red heifer. Some of you who follow some of the news in Israel may know that every once in a while some bunch of people decide, oh, we found this heifer that is a red heifer, a pure red heifer, and we can now reestablish. And then it turns out that the red heifer is not a red heifer. But that system no longer exists. What does exist, and here I want to make a really clear distinction as I can. What clearly does exist are echoes of that system, right? There are echoes of that system. One of them is tahor, is tahara. Because one of the things that we're trying to do there, and by the way, my question before, everybody should have raised their hands when I said, who's tameh? We're all tameh. Because you can't have, there's nobody that's tahor really. We have echoes of that system of tahara where women, after their period, go immerse in a mikveh and then can have marital relations. That's an echo of the system. Does it really mean that someone is tahora? No, there's no Kohen sacrifice. But it's an echo of that system. This tahara is an echo of that system because it's up to us, the metaharim, those of us who are doing this work, to take that body, that neshama, and transform them to tahor. Suspend disbelief. It's transforming a mate or metah from tameh to tahor.
Is it the same tameh and tahor as on this blue sheet?
Yeah. Essentially, sort of. But it's not, let me back up, not really. Because it's not. It's an echo. It's an echo. It's not the same.
I'm wondering when you declare Tahorahi, are you declaring about the body or about the neshama?
Good. When you say the words Tahorhu, Tahorahi, The words do not mean tahorhu and tahorahi. It means how we, this group that's doing this tahara, proclaim that we have finished our process of moving, transforming this body from tameh to tahor. It's like, that's the seal. It's not you're pure or impure. It is, we're now saying we've done our job. This is what we were supposed to do. We've now done it. And the water of the end of that job, of that process. There's a little bit more afterwards, but essentially it's the words are confusing because they're using the same words, but the words don't have the same function.
Is it possible that what you're saying is that the soul is now pure? It's been freed of the tameh body?
Yes. It's about the soul also, but remember that according to rabbinic sort of theology, the soul hangs around until burial. So, and at the very end of the process of tahara, you also ask forgiveness from that neshama. So, yeah. Okay, yes?
Is it possible that when people choose not to go into the ground but still want to have a traditional tahara service and then be put into a mausoleum or...
Into a vault? What about, yeah, what's the question?
The question is the process the same if we know that the body is not going in the ground? It can't say ground. This doesn't exist.
I don't know.
That's essentially a decision that every Chevra Kadisha and every individual...
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I misunderstood your question. Are you asking whether or not if a person's going into a vault rather than a ground, you do a tahara? Yeah. That's one of those questions that I'm going to answer along with Sarah's question before, because every Chevra Kadisha, you have to come up with a set of rules. I mean, every Chevra Kadisha has to come up with a set of rules. Whether in this Chevra Kadisha, it's going to be every congregation a part. Rules for the three, we've yet to work out that issue yet. It's about rabbinic authority and how decisions need to be made in this Chevra. Or I'll give you a better one. Do you do a tahara before a cremation?
So there are reasons.
Okay.
Some will say we should do as much as we can, and maybe between the time I do the tahara and later that afternoon, a family will change their mind. So at least we've done the tahara. Others will say this person has separated himself from the community by choosing a cremation, and we're not going to do anything. And gradations of consideration.
And there.
That can be a
Thanks, Mark.
Chevra policy. It can be an individual decision for each member. And your Chevra will have to figure out exactly how you're going to navigate that challenge.
Okay. Other questions? Yeah.
Well, I found out embarrassingly recently that Jews believe in resurrection. So I wonder,
I once said to somebody,
okay, I'll tell you.
anytime you start a sentence, Jews believe,
you're already in trouble. Well, I'll go you one better. Who's your rabbi? You got to ask him or her.
so how does that play? If Judaism does teach...
Believe in resurrection?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, every possible variation or thought about what happens after someone dies is found in traditional literature in Judaism. Everything from nothing happens to people getting in their cars and driving to Israel, or somehow or other tunneling Yeah, better word, thank you. Tunneling. You can find everything, and for
Jewish contemporaries of Dante who wrote things very similar to what Dante describes in the Divine Comedy. The
Okay.
levels of hell, well, Judaism has that too.
okay,
What's his name? Simcha Raphael's book,
yes,
Jewish Views of the Afterlife. It's about this thick, and it's sort of chronology of the evolution of Jewish thinking about the afterlife. Everything you can possibly imagine
Okay.
is in there somewhere.
okay. Just why not? Okay, so the pink paper that I just distributed, is a course that we teach about Tahara and Shmirah. We're just doing a few sessions about it here, but it's really much more complicated than what we're doing here. In the course, for example, we do a pretty hefty analysis about Tahor and Tameh rabbinically. I also last time distributed a yellow piece of paper that said Gamliel Institute Course 1, Chevra Kadisha Origins and Evolution. That one, we're actually starting to offer April 9th.
Tuesday evenings, 12 Tuesday evenings.
All of our courses in the Institute are online. Nothing is live. Also, all of our courses are online, and those of you that might be interested, that's what the course is all about. But what I really want to talk about is, good. What I really want to talk about is next time. Next time we are going to do a demonstration. By demonstration, that doesn't mean that all of you are going to stand on the outside and look on the inside. There will be, when you come into this room, there will be 3 tables set up. 1, 2, and 3. 2 for women and 1 for men, just because there seem to be more women than men. We will be handing out, we'll be giving you gowns.
Disconnected.
Sorry, it's the Bluetooth. It's powered.
Oh, okay. We will be giving you. This is spooky.
No comment on words.
I just want everybody to know we will be giving you gowns, we'll be giving you gloves, we will be using 3 sets of tachrichin, of shrouds. There will be a casket in here. We will be doing everything in terms of a demonstration. What I need is for 3 volunteers to lie down on a table, dressed. This is not, just want to make sure you all got that. And I'd love to have 3 volunteers and to talk with you about what it is that's expected of you, and description of what it felt like for him to be one of these volunteers on the table at one time. So, 1, 2, a man. Oh, come on, there's got to be somebody. All right, Marv. All right. Okay. Everybody, what we'll do is, there are a lot of us here. The plan is that there will be 7 people around the table, with 1 person sort of guiding up here, Dan. 7 people around a table, another 7 behind them, and you'll rotate, you'll switch places back and forth so that you all have an experience about what it is to actually do parts of, or as best as we can, simulate a Tahara.
The focus next session will be on the Ma'aseh.
Right, the Ma'aseh. The session after that will be on these 2. Okay? On your way out, oh, pardon me, one other thing. I put on the table outside there a list of definitions and terms for people if you would like them, and also an article which was a speech that was delivered at the recently at the Sinai meeting by Rabbi Serena Eisenberg about a Chevra Kadisha and what the meaning is. A phenomenal concept. She's from here. On your way out, I want you to take one of these. It's called Chesed Shel Emet, the Truest Act of Kindness. It's the third edition. In a couple of when we talk about liturgy, I'll explain why this is the third edition and why it's not, what the difference is between this and the other two editions. It's an expanded edition. It was done by Dan and myself, and it is the first attempt ever to explain what goes on in Tahara through the lens of the liturgy. But as part of it, it contains all of the actions that one does when one is doing a tahara. Okay? Please take this. I want you to skim it, but I want you to read the introductory stuff. That's really the only thing. And bring it next time, because we'll be using this, we'll be using some large charts, we'll be doing some other stuff too. I wanted to explain that this is what's going to happen so that you don't walk in and see a casket and, oh my God. But this is the beginning of what it's going to take to get a Chevra Kadisha going. Fair enough?
You say you want to talk to the three?
Yeah, I would like to talk to the three of you afterwards for a minute. Please take one of these books. They're over here.